Hey everybody, welcome to Ask Dr. Testosterone, starring Dr. George N. Touliatios. He is the author of Bodybuilding, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That is available on his website, gtoul.com, as well as on Amazon.com. You can also find his column every month in the pages of Muscular Development magazine. Dr. Touliatios has also contributed to the Anabolics book, many other publications. Joining me from Athens, Greece. How are you today, Doctor?
I'm fine, sir. Have a nice week.
Actually, it's tonight. It's already nighttime over there for you.
Yeah, it's 7 p.m. here. It's afternoon over there in Boston.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm glad because I just received from the newsstands the April issue.
Okay.
And now so we are expecting the May's issue, and I have sent the articles for June also.
Yeah.
And I have in mind what to send for July and August, and on September that I'm going to be in the United States for the Olympia. So I'm going to buy the September issue from the USA.
Okay, right on. It's a slow postal process, unfortunately. I'm going to start off with a question that this came up last week when there was an interview on the Global Muscle Radio podcast.
Yes.
Giles and AJ were talking to the 6'5" pro from the UK, Jamie the Giant, and they got into a brief debate because Giles is diabetic, and he doesn't like the idea of bodybuilders using insulin. He thinks what he's seen is a lot of guys, they get big and bloated, and then they diet down. They don't have any more muscle. They just seem to have bigger guts. But a lot of people swear that they have built a lot of muscle mass with insulin. We have no scientific reference point, no medical information. So I'm going to put the question to you, doctor. Does insulin actually build muscle tissue?
Yes, it does, absolutely. First of all, insulin is a metabolic hormone. This means that is a hormone that responds to high blood sugar levels, and then pancreas, as a result, will release insulin in order to lower the serum glucose. Okay. However, insulin is responsible for the rush and the influx of all macronutrients into the muscle cells and the sarcoplasm. And we get benefit of this anabolic window after half an hour or an hour post-workout. And we use even a hyperglycemic carb in order to stimulate the insulin spike. Otherwise, we use exogenous insulin along with carbohydrates, amino acids, mineral, essential fatty acids, creatine, and yes, these are the basic macronutrients. Okay. Now, we know from the scientific data that insulin stimulates the mTOR or apamycin, which is the metabolic pathway of muscle growth. Therefore, insulin, it does stimulate protein synthesis, okay, but in a different aspect than anabolic steroids that stimulate protein synthesis, of course, and DNA synthesis, but also they stimulate aldosterone and water retention. Now, insulin also is, of course, anabolic and metabolic hormone because it nourishes muscle cells through this, what I told you, and mainly glycogen synthesis. That glycogen, of course, is the basic fuel for anaerobic and bodybuilding and aerobic exercise. So through the glycogen synthase enzyme, and also it prevents muscle catabolism. So basically, insulin acts opposite than cortisol, which is responsible for muscle breakdown. Okay. And another fact is that also insulin, what we have to take in mind and consideration is it also stimulates fat storage and lipogenesis. So it is a hormone responsible for anabolism of muscle tissue, but also fat tissue and adipose tissue in particular, and also mental fat through the lipoprotein lipase enzyme. Therefore, we have to administer the precise amount of insulin in order to avoid fat storage, and most important, on metal fat that gives the bloating along with tissue enlargement and organomegaly when it's combined with growth hormone. Therefore, according to the protocols of Milosarchev and what I also describe in this book, for 100 kilogram of bodybuilder, you should use 10 IUs along with 100 grams of carbs, 50% complex, 50% carb,
simple
sugars, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Otherwise,
post-workout only.
Post-workout, and prefer also with morning, because morning also due to the night fasting, the insulin sensitivity is higher. So we can split the dose 5 a.m., 5 post-workout, 5 p.m. But more is not better. Mind that insulin can kill you in a blink of an eye along with diuretics and stimulants. Therefore, more is not better, of course.
Yeah. Well,
so in antibody ratio, according to kilograms, of course, huge bodybuilders may use 12 I units up to 13 I units according to the off-season. But mainly it's, yes, roughly it's 10 IUs in order to avoid, risk of hypoglycemia and coma.
So what do you think when you hear about bodybuilders that use, Boston Lloyd just talked about on Facebook a couple weeks ago that he does 140 units of insulin every day.
I don't know how he manages to survive. I don't know. I mean,
I thought that was a lot, but I've heard I've heard of more than that, 200.
I don't know, man. I mean, this is risky, and he has to eat a ton of food.
Yeah.
There are some allegations that Dallas McGarver died of insulin because he wanted to eat more and more, and he didn't have this sugar solution, the carbohydrate liquids. Therefore, he was forced to eat, and then he choked. And then there is a rumor that also insulin contributed to this, and he passed out.
Well, the final question I want to ask about that is, I know most people that use insulin also use steroids, and a good portion of those people also use growth hormone.
Yes, the holy grail of muscle growth, the 3 anabolic hormones.
Yeah, the holy trinity. But do you know of anyone that's only used insulin? They weren't using steroids, but they only used insulin, and they built muscle?
Yes, there was a guy who used just insulin, and when he was off from steroids, he just got bloated like a balloon.
Okay. So you really need steroids along with the insulin if you want to see the muscle growth.
Of course, and the growth hormone in order to burn some fat,
Yeah.
because just insulin is going to give you fat storage, and you can also produce insulin with your carbohydrates, right?
Right.
Unless you are insulin resistant. By the way, insulin helps in people with insulin resistance because the pancreas no longer reacts. Therefore, they have to administer. It's just like some people with diabetes mellitus 2. They don't get along with metformin, so they have to be introduced into insulin. And as a matter of fact, when you use insulin, you take a rest from your pancreas in order to be overstimulated. And there's no problem when you cut down insulin use, just like the steroid axis or the growth hormone axis. So there's no problem, but you have to use it under moderation.
Okay, so do not use 200 units a day. Okay.
Oh, come on, this is great, man. This is for horses, for elephants.
I've heard it all, Doc. I've heard it all. Okay, second question comes from a guy named Money Shot on the Muscular Development Forums. I'd like to hear your opinion on the whole hematocrit / hemoglobin situation with anabolic androgenic steroids. Apparently now we know it's not as serious as once thought, but what if it's really high, like a hematocrit of 60? At what point does it become a concern, even when platelets are normal and there are no genetic mutations at play?
Yes, this is a good question because also it refers to me, to myself, because my bone marrow is really sensitive. And the lowest of hematocrit I ever had was when I quitted steroids, and I had to wait until I see my HPTA could react in order to follow TRT, HRT or not. And it was 45% without using steroids for 7 months. Now, some people they have 45% with steroids, and they are blessed not to have erythrocytosis. Now, we know, of course, that all the steroids and all androgens are responsible for bone marrow stimulation, EPO production, erythropoietin, that stimulates bone marrow. And because of that, some steroids like oxymetholone or nandrolone are responsible to fight against anemia. But on the other hand, if you abuse steroids, you get erythrocytosis, and sometimes you get polycythemia. Now, polycythemia is different from erythrocytosis because polycythemia also involves platelets in elevation. And there comes the problem because platelets, of course, are responsible for coagulation under bleeding, and therefore we have to deactivate them with salicylic acid that inhibits prostaglandins, aspirin. However, aspirin does not affect the absolute number of platelets, but only their function. Also, fish oil has the same because some people they have the G6PD enzyme deficiency. Therefore, they can use DHEA or EPA and fish oil. However, if you use more than 6 grams of fish oil a day, then you have an issue with bleeding time. and coagulation time. Now, we have to consider that above 18 hematocrit, and because above 18 hemoglobin, 54% of hematocrit, yes, we have a problem with increased viscosity of the blood, and therefore there comes the blood donation. When blood donation is referred when it's below 18%,
Okay.
54%, I'm sorry, 18 of hemoglobin. Otherwise, you are erythrocytotic or polycythemic, and then you are supposed to be sick under this illness. Therefore, you get phlebotomized because your blood is wasted. It's not transfused to somebody else because the one who receives the blood is going to have issues with this high viscosity.
Huh.
Personally, my hemoglobin is between 17 and 19. My worst was 20. I had 60% once.
Yeah.
I was very flashy, and I had to be phlebotomized twice, 2 times within 2 weeks. And when you get phlebotomized, you lose, you waste 400 ml of almost half a liter of blood.
Yikes.
But if you overdo this, then it comes the reverse. You overstimulate bone marrow to produce red blood cells, because this is an artificial bleeding, and there the bone marrow understands and reacts that he has produced more red blood cells. Therefore, because the lifespan of erythrocytes is around 120 days, so it's about 4 months, we should not donate more than 3 to 4 times mostly per year in this lifespan, every 3 months or every 4 months. And
I'm sorry, were you saying you can donate? Because I was confused. It sounded like you said you shouldn't be donating blood.
The frequency is every 3 or 4 months. Every 3 months you can donate, because erythrocytes live about 90 to 120 days.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you do this continuously, then you're going to stimulate as a compensatory mechanism bone marrow.
Okay. All right. Next question is kind of a long one, so here we go. Hi, Doc. I really love the series. Keep it up. My question is regarding DHEA. First, if used and then later discontinued, will my DHEA levels plummet, which might plummet testosterone and estrogen as well due to conversion cycle? Such an exogenous testosterone. Second, my estrogen has always been low, 23 picograms per milliliter. Normal range is 27 to 52. I am natural. Thus, my joints not only feel achy, but more importantly, I keep injuring my spine with the most random movements, like playing basketball and running, basically movements where spine injuries shouldn't happen. I do not want to jump on TRT or DECA despite having healthy levels just to treat my spine. Can DHA help in that regard? If it boosts testosterone, which is a side bonus, have there been studies done how much it can increase versus the increase in estrogen? Ooh, okay.
Yes, DHEA is a prohormone that also metabolizes to androgen and estrogens also. Personally, I recommend it to guys who follow PCT afterwards and wait in order to their labs to get restored, and then wait again until to enter a new steroid cycle. So I give them the DHEA in order to improve their mentality and their libido, because it metabolizes also to testosterone and increases testosterone. However, DHEA also elevates E1, which is estrone. It's a lesser estrogen. Beta estradiol E2 is the main estrogen. Therefore, estrone is a less potent estrogen, and I believe the aromatization is lesser and not like the steroids that elevate estradiol. However, you can split the dose, and if you want to use 50 milligrams of DHEA, you can split it 25 a.m. and 25 p.m. in order to avoid any kind of spike in E1. Now, also, DHEA is a prohormone that should be supplemented as an age management to both males and females after the age of 40, but accordingly to the blood levels of SDHEA, the sulfate form, which is the active form. So yes, personally myself, I use it almost 3 years in a row every day, and I found no reason to stop, to quit using it. As a matter of fact, I also give it to my mother and my grandmother.
Okay.
And yes, I believe it supports also adrenal metabolism, and also can control cortisol. It's also responsible for immune function, for brain activity, for cognitive ability, for sex drive, because also as an androgen can lower SHBG and can elevate free testosterone. And yes, as an androgen, it may burn some fat or improve the bone mineral density and anemia. DHEA is prohibited in Europe. It's considered a doping by IOC.
Oh.
But I believe in the United States it's free. It's available even in supermarkets.
Yeah, and I remember it being very popular about 10 or 12 years ago, but I haven't heard much about it in a while. I think people just got bored. They were looking for the next exciting supplement. And everybody forgot about DHEA.
If you are on TRT, you should supplement with DHEA.
Okay, good to know.
And, yes, and they act synergistically. And yeah, I highly recommend it.
Okay.
Along with HCG.
I just made a note of that. I'm gonna get some today. Good. That's a great idea. Okay, next one is I'd like to ask about Injectablecarnitine, sold as Superamin in Greek market, I think. And I've heard it works a lot more than the usual supplements. What's your opinion on this?
First of all, carnitine is the vehicle that transports the free fatty acids into the mitochondria for the beta oxidation and fat burning. This is the hypothetical scenario. Personally, I have used liquid L-carnitine 1 gram before cardio on an empty stomach in order to enhance this process. But I believe that the cost effect is disproportional. You don't see main results. What is carnitine also very helpful is in heart and in myocardium, because under rest conditions when heartbeat is low, heart burns free fatty acids, so it burns fat.
Yeah.
Therefore, we can enhance this process, and carnitine can serve as a fuel production for the heart. That's why this Superamin product from the pharmacy store, inside the instructions, the paper, it is suggested for people with heart failure and generally people with heart issues. Oh, okay. Therefore, I suggested along with Q10 for better energy production and better rhythm of the heart. I don't know about injectable. If it works within the adipose tissue, but even if it does, I'm not a fan of spot reduction that you can burn fat just with an injection.
Right. As far as effectiveness, I remember hearing years ago that the injectable version was much more effective, got into the system, and was utilized a lot better than like an oral form, like a liquid or a pill. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, certainly. It gets into the bloodstream and also into the adipose tissue. However, what's the benefit of L-carnitine along with CLA, conjugated linoleic acid, that they're fat burners, that they do not affect the basal metabolic rate and they're not stimulants. So an average person who does not want to get irritated from stimulants like caffeine, for instance, or estrogen or clenbuterol, he can use these lipotropic factors and does not affect his heart rate or insomnia, whatever.
Right. Good to know.
But I wouldn't spend my money on this.
Okay. Good. Do not buy it, people.
Just for the heart prevention,
Right. Okay. Next question. This comes from Michael Edwards, who is banned from MD, but I think it's another 2 weeks, and then we'll
He's an interesting guy. Maybe he was.
Yeah, he was.
I was also banned twice from the Greek.
Banned?
From
MD.
I had many haters that took me out of my nerves, and I behaved a little bit edgy.
Yeah.
And I was blocked twice, but then when I got famous in United States, they took me back.
No, wait, MD? We banned you?
No MD.
Oh, okay.
It was bodybuilding.gr.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what their policies are. Here we go. So Michael Edwards, who
Michael Edwards pops out very interesting questions, and he's an interesting guy. But
yeah, if he can
sometimes
if he can play nice, he's welcome
you have
back.
to play by the rules.
Exactly. So he wants to know which is better during a cutting cycle for keeping your muscle, equipoise or Masteron?
Yes, Masteron is supposed to be an androgen and a weak anabolic. Actually, synthetic DHT, just like Proviron, does not aromatize. And Masteron, we use it 2 weeks before the show, when we stop the suspension testosterone that aromatizes, but is used frequently every day. It gets out of the system every day, 24 hours. And then we substitute this with drostanolone propionate, which is actually oil-based, and it has to be injected every other day, so 4 times a week, for instance. But it's not considered as a potent anabolic, mainly as an androgen. The androgens are responsible also for hardening because they burn fat.
Yeah.
And Equipos, on the other hand, is an anabolic. It's actually a little less anabolic than DHEA, than Nandro. And but it's also more androgenic than DHEA. And yes, Equipos is considered to be one of the choices during bulking when you switch it with DHEA also.
Yeah.
But yes, by far I think Equipos is better than Masteron. And also they use it different times. Masteron is a fast-acting ester of drug.
Yeah.
They use it before the show, while Equipos or Boldenone, which is very popular in South America, is used for bulking, and it's very long ester. The andecyclinate, I think the ester is very long lasting, that acts after 1 month, after the 4 weeks, you see some results, and you need high doses of 500 milligrams per week.
Wow. Yeah. It was a very popular veterinary drug, Equipoise, obviously.
Yes.
But I think the Brazilian version was called Ganabol.
I remember the Ganabol. I used it also in 2000, yes. It was the green with the cattle. Yeah. It was 50 milligram per ml. It was not very dense, yes.
Because cows don't care.
It was also in vial of 50 ml, I think.
It's a jug.
Yes.
Jug. Yeah, that's a lot of oil you had to push in. But I mean, his question really gets to an interesting point, is because if you're cutting, is there any difference which drug you're using as far as how much muscle you're going to keep or not? I mean, aren't they all pretty much the same in that regard?
Not all steroids are not the same. They do not have the same anabolic index.
So you want a higher anabolic index to retain muscle?
Yes, of course. Yes, Trenbolone has 500 anabolic index. Anavar has 300 anabolic. Winstrol also 300. And also these drugs, they are not supposed to aromatize, so they don't cause water retention. Also, we use halotestin because it's very androgenic and supposed to harden and burn fat, and also give you strength. Androgens also are responsible for giving strength.
Yeah.
And yes, bulking comes from water retention mainly. This is the process. This is the water gain. That also has to be muscle, not just water and fat.
So if you're on a lower calorie diet, what would you say is the best steroid that's going to help you keep your muscle out of all of them?
Well, testosterone and tren.
Okay.
Also, Anavar, Winstrol. Okay. And Primo is a weak anabolic.
Yeah.
There's also a fast version of Nandrolone NPP, Nandrolone phenylpropionate, that is injected every other day. It has the benefit of acting rapidly, unlike the DHEA that needs almost 2 weeks in order to see any result.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Everybody loves that NPP these days. Let me tell you, they rave about it.
But I think it's underground. It's
of course. But it's
pharmaceutical grade.
It's all over the place now. It's not that hard to find anymore. A couple of years ago, you heard about it, but you didn't know anybody that could get it. Now it's everywhere. So in America anyway. I don't know what the situation is in other places. Final question. Some heart health. What about using statins like Crestor or Taurus after a cycle for 4 to 8 weeks to lower cholest and triglycerides with megadosing omega-3 up to 10 grams?
Yes, this is a good question that also guys from Greece keep asking me. Statins are not supposed to be used within cycle because, first of all, they're responsible for rhabdomyolysis and can affect muscle tissue and recovery. Second, because they are responsible for pharmaceutical hepatitis and transaminemia. Therefore, they stress the liver. You don't need that along with steroid use.
Oh, crap.
But also, if you're natty, they can lower your endogenous testosterone because as they lower cholesterol, we know that from the steroid molecule of cholesterol, testosterone is stimulated, and also other steroids like glucocorticosteroids, mineral corticosteroids, and whatever. So yes, they can be used afterwards in order to lower LDL, the low density lipoprotein, which is considered as the bad cholesterol that is responsible for the atherosclerotic plaque within the arteries, and total cholesterol. However, they do not affect the HDL, the good cholesterol that cleans up the endothelium of the arteries. Yeah. And therefore, they have to use some other agents, like I told you in the previous episode, like niacin. Red rice yeast is also alternative to statins, which is supposed to be as a supplement and not chemical stuff. You know, there are plant-based things. The red rice yeast, it comes from the red rice. Yeah. Also phytosterols, as I told you, they produce these phytoestrogens, which is the estrogenic environment is helpful for the dyslipidemia. Also, yes, resveratrol and krill oil are very helpful for triglycerides, lowering the fish oil, yes, they lower triglycerides. And healthy diet, of course, with fiber, essential fatty acids, avoid fried food, avoid saturated fat, trans fat, refined sugars, you know, and do plenty of cardio because low-pace cardio elevates HDL, and quit smoking. I also myself use statins afterwards because after the show my HDL was about 10, my LDL was about 200, and my total cholesterol was 300. Wow. Therefore, I had to use it for 8 weeks in order to fix and to reverse my dyslipidemia, but not within the cycle, no, because they're going to stress the liver more, and they're going to affect your recovery time from training.
You know, I've been on Lipitor 10 milligrams a day for about 6 months now. So
you feel kind of sore. Thomas O'Connor also used, but Thomas uses just TRT.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes I use TRT. Occasionally.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's all the questions we have for you, Doctor. Thank you so much. I want to remind everyone again, a lot of your questions that are very general and asking about properties of steroids, how they're used, the health risks and things like that are covered in this book, Bodybuilding, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, available on gtool.com, as well as Amazon.com. And you can look forward to more and more information every month in the pages of Muscular Development Magazine from Dr. Touliatios in his column, Ask Dr. Testosterone. So
I'm very helpful because in March, my sales from the book increased because of this advertisement that you do, and I'm very grateful to you and to Steve Bletchman.
Yeah, I like it when everybody wins, Doctor. Everybody wins.
So I hope to be a little bit more famous when I come to Vegas.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely going to be there. I want Dr. O'Connor. I want us to all have a little meetup.
Okay.
No bench pressing. He'll get all pumped up and try to do 500 and tear his pec again. I don't want that. He tore his pec last year. You know that.
Yes, I know.
All right. Well, Doctor, thank you so much for giving your expertise and information to everybody. Good medical information instead of our usual bro science where we don't really know if we got the right answers or not. So this is excellent. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for watching Ask Dr. Testosterone. Keep the good questions coming, and we'll see you next time.